All right, welcome to the Paideia Way, conversations on whole person education. I'm Dr. Brian Winsor. I'm the executive director and the founder of Paideia Academies in South Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Victoria Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Education here at Paideia Academies. And today we will explore first things first, time, tech, attention, and family rituals, especially reading time. We are
Wow.
so glad that you've joined us. So, if your family feels busy but not always fulfilled, if you get to the end of the day and you wonder, where did all the time go? This episode is really for you.
Yeah, I mean, habit 3 is one of the guiding habits for me to keep my life on track. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters first, what matters most before your day fills up. Um, I remember as a young dad, a young family, we had 2 girls and 3 boys, that's a handful of kids in a house. And my poor wife, I mean, I shouldn't say poor wife, I mean, she's very capable, but man, she was run ragged some days, very busy. We're also very highly active in our church. Both of us had responsibilities there. I was also in my master's program for special education and uh, teaching school all day. Those were busy days. And I'm telling you, some days it didn't feel very fulfilled, didn't feel very purposeful. Like, why are we doing this? And then here's the through line, because all of these series build upon each other. And the through line is we have to start with meaning, the why. Then we build the practices. Episode 1 asked the question, what is school for? It's for becoming, not just achieving. Episode 2 said, hey, start with inside out, start with yourself first. Principles before strategies. The why before the how and the what. Episode 3 built on that and gave us our family North Star, the vision that says, here's what our family is about, and here's where we're heading as a family. Episode 4 practiced choice and calm to keep us centered on our principles and on our vision, our North Star. Then last episode, we built rhythms and routines that will reduce friction in our organization, which is your family.
Yeah, and so today we'll be taking the next step. We're going to be turning values, vision, calm, and routines into rituals, which really are small, repeated moments that protect what matters most.
Yeah, a routine is what we, like it says, routinely do, regardless, regularly. We do this without even thinking. In fact, in what you taught us last week about strategic practice and becoming automatic, we do these routines without thinking about them. The connection is harnessing habit energy in a positive way. But a ritual, on the other hand, is what we do on purpose, and it has special meaning, connected often to our North Star and our principles.
Right. And this is another thing we discussed in our last episode. We talked about routines supporting executive function
Hmm.
and routines building connection, identity, belonging. All of these things really matter.
Yeah, because as we discuss frequently, there are a lot of loud distractors in our life competing for our attention. Screen time, schedules, stress, the cost of living, even
Yeah.
the cost of diesel is distracting me a little bit right
Yes.
now. It's just there's so much. And habit 3 is choosing what's important, what matters most over what feels so urgent at the moment. And in the 7 habit language, we speak about choosing big rocks and planting our big rocks and not being distracted so much by gravel.
So today we're going to give you practical tools to protect time, tech, and attention. All right. And then we'll build one simple ritual that helps across the ages, and that's reading time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you now to pause and reflect and think about this question. What gets your attention best right now? What gets your best attention right now? What do you value
Mm.
most? What is loudest in your life right now? So, habit three starts with a question: what matters most? And when will we do it?
Mm.
Because if that thing that matters most to us is not protected, it's going to get crowded out. So let's make first things first more family friendly. We're going to talk about how does this matter in our families. Remember that urgent and important aren't the same thing. Urgent is that thing that's the squeaky wheel. It's texts, messages, it's deadlines, it's lost shoes. It's the thing that has to happen right now. But important is what builds a life. Okay, these are our routines, our sleep, relationships, learning, moments of calm, reading, having conversations, playtime. These things we categorize as these are important long-term building things.
Yeah. And remember, over time, we said often, I say this often in my leadership coaching, is that leadership isn't control. Leadership is establishing an environment
Mhm.
with less conflict and trust and more space for relationships. Relationship building is not established by control, it's by establishing those environments of trust and relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about relationships, really. So at school, structure really protects learning time and it protects calm. When I taught third grade, one of the learning structures that protected our time, and we use
Mm.
this as protected reading time in our classroom, and that was Daily Five. My students loved Daily Five because it really was a predictable structure. They knew that every day they're going to read to self, read to someone, work on writing, do word work, or listen to reading. But they also knew that they were going to have a choice about which of those activities they were going to do and when. And they knew that they would be engaged in reading good fit books of their choice. And they knew that I would be engaged in teaching small groups of students
Mhm.
during that time. So today, now all of our classrooms, kindergarten through fourth grade, use that daily five structure, and we consider this protected reading time at our
Mm.
school. So let's bring this idea of protected structures, back to home. We're going to give you tools today, we said. So let's start with tool number one. It's called the 15-minute anchor.
Mm.
The 15-minute anchor. So you're going to choose one daily anchor that you protect no matter what. Whether it's mealtime, a daily walk, your family bedtime routine, reading time. What is that one daily anchor that you protect in your home no matter what?
Yeah, those anchors become your identity. It becomes something for your family to hold on to. Growing up I was born in the 50s, and so I have the 60s and 70s as my early childhood formation. And there were 10 kids in my family, and I was one of the oldest. I was number three. But every morning, our anchor was this. Every morning, we had breakfast together around that big old kitchen table. And part of the anchor was that we had our scriptures with us. It was an old fashioned moment where we had a bowl of oatmeal, some cream, some sugar, some toast, orange juice, and our scriptures were open and we'd round robin read. And that's how my mother built our family culture of honor and moral values. It was an anchor that kept us safe in those turbulent moral times of the 60s and 70s. And they really were. And, a common saying that grew out of that was return with honor. And a ritual that came out of that anchor was that my mom put on our door a gold plaque. And on that plaque, it said, return with honor. And when we went out the door, it was just ritual. We just touch the plaque and remind ourselves that we're going to return with honor. Then it was connected. My mother also expected that every night whenever any of us got home from a date, we were expected to go upstairs and wake up my mother and tell her that we're home and report in. So it's like I'd walk up the steps and think, oh man, and you better not be after midnight because that,
Yeah.
that was danger. So I'd walk up the steps and I'd say, hey mom, I'm home. And then I'd hope like crazy, like she's just gonna not wake up or she's gonna say go to bed. No, every time. She'd pat the side of her bed and say, "Son, tell me about your date."
Yeah.
So I talked to her a little bit about the date, and then she would always end it by saying something like, "Son, I'm proud of you. I love you. Good night." And then it was expected for me to lean in and kiss my mother on the cheek and then go to bed. It wasn't a breathalyzer test. It wasn't a check on integrity. It really was a strand of rituals that brought everything together for love and relationship. And my mother passed away 4 years ago, and I love her, and I'm so thankful for those rituals that she provided for us as we grew up.
That's so important, the idea of rituals and the returning with honor. And that
Mm.
reminder is so key. So this takes us to our second tool. Let's get into our second tool we want to give you today, and it's called the tech gate.
Mm.
Yeah. So this is an important one because it has to do with our screen time. And we want to really encourage families to put screens behind a gate, set boundaries with your screen time in your household. So whatever that boundary is, we don't, use our screens before this or only after that. And remember that the gate, that protected time, it's not punishment, it's protection of attention and relationships.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so I don't know if you have an experience like this, Dr. Windsor, but have you ever been to a restaurant with your family and you notice how people are eating together, but they're also alone? There
Yeah.
may be a family sitting together, they're having dinner together.
Mhm.
They're all sitting there together, but they're all on their phones and they're not talking. Now, this point
Yeah.
is not to place shame or blame on any family, but these are moments when screen time can steal something important like relationship building or spending meaningful, purposeful time with your family.
Yeah, and that is so sacred to be together, especially during a meal, and being attentive to one another. Because what we repeatedly give attention to, it really slowly forms who we become and who we are.
Yeah, so let's look at our third tool. So we want to get into tool number three, a transition ritual, a restorative circle, a 2-minute reset
Mm.
when you come home. So think about what those transitions are like in your house. So you get home, is it shoes off, grab a glass of water, quick huddle in the kitchen, how was the day, slow breath together, what was the highest moment of your day, your low moment of your day, a round robin, a high, a low. We want to encourage families to choose a transition ritual that helps you transition back into home.
Wow, I love that. In fact, um, when you told me you're going to do that tool, I started doing it when I pick up my little granddaughter from school. So we get in the truck, and I just ask her, get in there. I say, "Hey, what's a high and what's a low?" She rarely has a high, but she's in kindergarten. But it sparks this conversation, like, "Oh, well, Grandpa, today the big kids, they were kind of being mean and they got me out when we're playing this game and stuff like that." So it just starts this conversation, and then I can just listen. And I think it deepens the relationship for just that. I mean, we're standing in the parking lot. The truck's open. I'm off the side, but I think it is that one slow breath together that I've been practicing now with Zoe, and I appreciate so much this tool you gave me this week.
And I know my sister actually uses this tool with her family as well around the dinner table. High, low of the day. And it gives us all an opportunity to just share naturally what happened in your day instead of just going through the motions of that.
Yeah,
So,
because otherwise, here's what happens. Everybody with children, they know what happens. The kids come through the door, bam, and it's like this frenetic energy, whoosh, through the house, backpacks off, shoes off, and maybe they're racing to a screen time or something like that, and we just kind of lose the energy of it. And so the huddle, especially in a sacred place, my sacred place growing up was the kitchen table.
mhm,
So that becomes his mom's space, which is loving and sacred. And we gather around and just have that quick huddle to
yeah.
recenter ourselves, slow breath and change from
Yeah, well, and the check-in part of this transition, the how was your day part, it gives the structure gives you an opportunity to open conversation in your family because the
Mm,
general question, how was your day? What usually happens?
mm.
Fine, good. So when you ask what was the best part of your day or what was a low part of your day, now we can open up the conversation and we get a little bit more of those specific details of what happened in our day, and it allows us to have a true, genuine conversation.
And I like that it's in a restorative circle. That's a very significant practice we do at Paideia, and just around the circle and just one opportunity. And I suppose you could pass if you want. That's how we do the
Yeah,
restorative circles.
yeah,
Very powerful. I'd love
yeah.
to hear from our community a little bit if they email and say, "Yeah, I tried the the quick huddle or restorative circle at home." That'd be awesome.
So we want to move into our featured ritual for today. We've talked about this earlier today, and that's building family reading time. And we want to make this as flexible as we can for multiple ages so it can work for your kids no matter what age they are.
Mm.
So reading time strengthens attention, it strengthens vocabulary, knowledge, it supports school success. And you might have a student who comes home with a reading log and you say, "Get your 20 minutes of reading done," and you might be on them about
Mm.
getting their reading done every day. But what we also want to do, other than just getting our reading done, family reading time creates a calm, shared moment at home. It's a relationship building time just as much as it is getting something done like your reading log.
Yeah, because if it becomes a chore, a box to check, now it becomes control. We're in the control space. Like, hey, I'm
Right.
controlling you, and you're going to do this thing. If it becomes family, then even I might be reading as well, or hugging into a child and reading one page, the other child. Reading is formation, and it builds imagination, builds empathy, conscientiousness, meaning, mind, heart, and spirit. I still feel the love of my mother's voice when I read scriptures or I read a book that she had read to us. My mom's echo of her cadence of her voice still is in my heart. That's very fun.
That's beautiful, Brian, and mine as well. Growing up, I have so many memories of reading time with my mom and my dad. We often went to the library together as a whole family, and I developed a true love of reading that stays with me today. But I also have memories of my parents reading, in front of me, because in our home we
Oh,
had bookshelves filled with books. And my parents were always reading. They were both readers. So they modeled that for us. We may all have been in the family room together and everybody had a book. We all were reading. So when it comes to developing reading rituals in your home, there's a few ways that you can do this. Option
mm,
one is the typical read aloud. So one person reads, everyone listens, and this is great. There's nothing wrong
yeah.
with this. A read aloud is special. It makes everyone feel a part of it, and teenagers love this too, by the way. Option two, everyone reads. So everybody has their own book and everyone's reading quietly, but together. And that's a wonderful time too because we all get to self-select. We are building our library, our family library, and both of these things count. The goal here is not perfection during this reading time. It's repetition, it's ritual, it's consistency. So
Mm.
10 minutes of doing this, that's really enough to change the whole week. So in our family, we read together, and that might just be the principle that you live by, and you protect that time in your family.
I'm so
So
thankful for
yeah.
my kids read together with their kids, and what I've noticed also is that the older kids are reading, and the younger kids are picking up on those words, and they're
Mhm.
following along, and then pretty soon they're sounding out words, and they become these really strong readers as they're listening to the old ones read. And
Right.
it's pretty powerful.
So you can make this really easy for your family. It might be like I told you, we had bookshelves in our home, and the shelves were always filled with books. But it might be for you a book basket. It might be a library bag, by the door, and you might protect this time with a simple timer or just protect knowing how much time we have that we're reading together as a family.
I like what you said on another podcast that you said that you can relinquish control, or like if one of the student, I mean one of the children is in charge of the timer, that becomes now they are part of the leaders of your anchor time, and I will say sometimes it'll fall apart. Sometimes it just is gonna be wonky, especially as you get the ritual set. And I love the counsel Victoria gave us, last week and the week before. Hey, if it falls apart, no harm, nothing personal. Let's do it again. Let's try it again. That always rings back through my head.
Rewind, try again.
Yeah.
It's all good. So always end your family reading time with one gentle and simple prompt. Just choose one. So what stood out to you today in your reading? What'd you notice? What are you wondering about?
Hmm.
You can even ask we teach our scholars here, I mentioned earlier the daily five structure. And part of what we teach them is that there are three ways to read a book. You can read the pictures, you can read the words, and you can retell the story. So if you have very young children who may not yet be reading the words, we are teaching them how to read pictures, how to read the illustrations, and you can ask them questions about the pictures as you are reading together as a family. So don't count them out just because they may not be able to read all the words. They are still readers, and we want to give them that message. You are a reader, no matter which way of the three ways that you choose to read your book today. So if you're interested in more about this and you are a Paideia family, I am actually going to be hosting a book talk on campus on May 5th during our book fair. We're having our BOGO, buy one, get one free book fair during May. And I'm going to be hosting a book talk on May 5th. And I'll give you some strategies for literacy development and reading together as a family at home during the book talk. So you're welcome to attend if you're a Paideia family on May 5th.
You should attend this. Victoria was the first third grade teacher at Paideia, and I don't know that I've ever found a better third grade reading teacher. She's also a published author, as is their mother. And don't miss this. The opportunity to sit at her feet and learn is good for me as well. I do it. I learn all the time. I love what you're doing right now for our community is because you're giving them the best of both worlds, the academic growth, the family love and connection without the control pressure. It's just a ritual. This is just how we operate. And it's that great school community connection that we always want to do at Paideia. All right, I'm ready. I want that Paideia practice because I'm practicing them because I enjoy them so much. I'm ready for it, Victoria.
All right, here's our Paideia practice for this week. A short ritual you can start tonight. We like to offer one simple practice families can try each week, something small that supports whole person growth. This week's Paideia practice is the 10-minute reading ritual.
Mm.
Pick a time and a place that you can repeat this ritual daily. Remember to put screens behind a gate, not before reading. And then choose your option. You can read together, read aloud together, or everyone reads quietly but together at the same time. Set a timer for at least 10 minutes and end with one gentle question, like what stood out. Remember, if it doesn't go well, just say, let's do it again, and you can try it again the next day.
I love what we're doing. This is so beneficial, I'm sure, for the community, but it's also beneficial for me, and I appreciate it so much. Remember, be kind to yourself. You're a mama, you're a dad, you're a grandma raising grandkids. You're a special person, so be kind to yourself, body, mind, heart, and spirit.
Well, as we end today's conversation, this is the Paideia Way.